On a lonely rock in the North Atlantic Ocean, three experienced lighthouse keepers vanished without leaving a single confirmed clue behind. No bodies, no witnesses, no distress signal, no sign of a struggle. When the relief crew finally arrived at the remote lighthouse, they found something deeply unsettling. The lighthouse lamp had gone dark, the men were gone, and the island seemed frozen in time. More than 120 years later, the disappearance of the Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers remains one of the world's most chilling, unsolved mysteries. This is the true story of James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, the three men who walked into history and were never seen again. Far off the coast of Scotland lies a small group of rocky islands known as the Flannan Isles. The islands are isolated, windswept, and surrounded by some of the most dangerous waters in Europe. Towering cliffs rise from the sea, while powerful Atlantic storms crash against the rocks with terrifying force. In the late 19th century, ships traveling through these waters needed guidance. To reduce maritime disasters, a lighthouse was built on Eilean Moor, the largest island in the chain. The lighthouse became operational in December 1899. Life there was difficult. Three lighthouse keepers would live on the island while a fourth remained on the mainland, rotating duties periodically. Their job was simple in theory, but demanding in practice. Keep the light burning, maintain equipment, record weather conditions, ensure ships could safely navigate the treacherous waters. The work required discipline and reliability. The men stationed there were not adventurers or thrill seekers. They were professionals trusted with the safety of countless sailors. No one could have imagined that within a year, three of them would disappear forever. The three keepers on duty in December 1900 were James Duckett. Duckett was the principal keeper and the senior man on the island. Known as responsible and experienced, he had spent years working in lighthouse service. His colleagues considered him dependable and calm under pressure. Thomas Marshall. Marshall served as the second assistant keeper. He was meticulous and took his responsibilities seriously. In many ways, he represented exactly the kind of person authorities wanted operating a remote lighthouse. Donald MacArthur. MacArthur was serving as a temporary replacement. Unlike the others, he was not a career lighthouse keeper. He had a reputation as a strong and capable man. Some accounts describe him as having a fiery personality, but he was still considered reliable enough for the assignment. The three men settled into their routine as winter arrived. Then something happened, and no one knows exactly what it was. The mystery began on December 15, 1900. A passing ship reportedly noticed that the lighthouse light was not operating as expected. This was alarming. The entire purpose of the lighthouse was to provide a visible beacon for vessels at sea. A dark lighthouse could place lives at risk. However, rough weather delayed any immediate investigation. Days passed. The island remained isolated. No one could check on the keepers. No one knew what was happening, or if anything had already happened. On December 26, 1900, the relief vessel Hesperus finally approached the island. The captain expected a routine shift change. Instead, he was about to step into one of history's greatest mysteries. As the ship neared the island, something felt wrong. Normally, the lighthouse keepers would be waiting. The arrival of the relief vessel was a significant event. The keepers usually greeted incoming crews. But this time there was no welcoming party. No movement. No signal. Nothing. The atmosphere immediately became unsettling. The crew attempted to attract attention. There was still no response. Concern turned into alarm. A relief keeper named Joseph Moore was sent ashore to investigate. What he found would become the foundation of a mystery that survives to this day. As Moore climbed toward the lighthouse, he noticed an eerie silence. The island felt abandoned. When he reached the lighthouse compound, he discovered something shocking. Nobody was there. The keepers had vanished. Inside, the lighthouse appeared strangely normal. Beds had been slept in. Some equipment remained in place. The kitchen showed signs that life had been proceeding as usual. Yet the men themselves were nowhere to be found. Moore searched the buildings. Nothing. He checked the surrounding area. Still nothing. The realization slowly settled in. Three grown men had disappeared from one of the most isolated locations in Scotland. Without explanation, without witnesses, without a trace. Investigators began examining the lighthouse carefully. Several details stood out. The missing oilskins. One of the most discussed clues involved the keeper's protective outerwear. Reports indicated that 2 sets of oilskins were missing. One set remained inside. This raised immediate questions. If the men had gone outside during severe weather, why would one of them leave without essential protection? Experienced lighthouse keepers understood the dangers of Atlantic storms. Leaving without proper gear would have been unusual. The clock. Accounts over the years have suggested that clocks had stopped inside the lighthouse. Whether every detail of these stories is accurate remains debated, but such reports helped fuel the mystery. The locked door. The lighthouse itself was secure. There were no signs of intruders. No evidence that strangers had landed on the island. No indication of violence inside. The disappearance seemed to have occurred outside. But where? And why? One of the most famous aspects of the case involves entries in the lighthouse logbook. According to reports, weather observations described unusually severe conditions. Some accounts claim Thomas Marshall recorded extraordinary storms and unusual behavior among the men. One story suggests that even the normally tough Donald MacArthur appeared distressed. Another entry allegedly mentioned prayers. If true, such behavior would have been highly unusual. Experienced lighthouse keepers were accustomed to rough weather. For them to become frightened suggested something extraordinary. However, historians have debated the accuracy of these reported entries. Some researchers believe portions of the story were exaggerated over time. Others argue that records may have been misinterpreted. Regardless, the logbook became part of the legend, and the mystery deepened. The Northern Lighthouse Board launched an investigation. Authorities needed answers. Robert Muirhead, a superintendent with extensive experience, examined the island. His task was straightforward: determine what happened. But the evidence provided no clear solution. Muirhead studied the lighthouse, interviewed witnesses, and inspected the island. Eventually, he reached a conclusion. The men had likely been swept away by the sea. This explanation became the official theory. Yet not everyone was convinced. Investigators discovered signs of storm damage on the western side of the island. Equipment storage areas had been affected. Ropes had been displaced. Damage appeared higher than expected. These observations suggested powerful waves had struck the island. Even today, rogue waves can reach astonishing heights. In extreme conditions, massive walls of water can appear unexpectedly. Such waves are capable of sweeping people into the ocean within seconds. The official reconstruction went something like this. One keeper went outside to secure equipment. A second keeper followed. The third man, seeing trouble, rushed out to help. A massive wave struck. All 3 men were swept into the sea. If true, the tragedy would have unfolded quickly. There would have been little chance of survival. And in those violent waters, recovery of the bodies would have been unlikely. Despite its plausibility, the wave theory leaves several unanswered questions. Why were all 3 men outside? Lighthouse regulations generally required 1 keeper to remain inside. Abandoning the station completely would have violated procedure. Why would all 3 leave at once? Why was 1 set of oilskins left behind? This detail continues to puzzle researchers. If conditions were dangerous enough to require outdoor work, why would 1 keeper leave without protective gear? Why was there no direct witness? The wave theory explains the disappearance, but no one actually saw it happen. The conclusion is based on circumstantial evidence. As a result, alternative theories emerged, and some became quite famous. One theory proposes that conflict erupted among the men. The isolated environment may have intensified tensions. Living on a remote island for weeks at a time could be psychologically demanding. Supporters of this theory suggest an argument may have escalated into violence. Perhaps one man killed another. Perhaps a fight broke out. Perhaps someone fell from the cliffs. Yet this theory faces major obstacles. No blood was found. No signs of struggle were discovered. No evidence supported murder. And there is no indication that any of the men had serious conflicts. Most historians view this explanation as unlikely. Another idea suggests the keepers voluntarily left the island. Some versions claim they were attempting a rescue. Others suggest they saw something at sea. However, this theory also lacks evidence. There was no boat missing, no confirmed emergency, no witness reports. The men simply vanished. Without proof, the theory remains speculation. As often happens with unsolved mysteries, supernatural stories emerged. Local folklore surrounding the Flannan Isles was already rich with legends. For centuries, islanders told stories about strange presences and mysterious forces. After the disappearance, rumors spread rapidly. Some claimed supernatural beings took the keepers. Others spoke of ghosts. Still others suggested unexplained lights or paranormal events. These stories captured public imagination. Books, documentaries, and television programs repeated them for decades. Yet no credible evidence supports any supernatural explanation. The mystery is fascinating enough without adding ghosts. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the case is not the mystery itself. It is the humanity of the men involved. James Duckett had a family. Thomas Marshall had loved ones waiting for him. Donald MacArthur had people expecting his return. When the relief ship arrived, nobody knew they were already gone. Families waited for answers. Weeks became months. Months became years. No bodies were recovered. No final goodbye was possible. The uncertainty must have been devastating. Unlike many tragedies, there was never a definitive conclusion. Only questions. The disappearance quickly attracted attention across Britain. Newspapers published dramatic accounts. Writers expanded the story. Details became exaggerated. Facts mixed with folklore. Over time, the case transformed from a tragic accident into one of the world's most famous unsolved mysteries. Poems were written. Books explored the case. Television programs revisited the story. Internet forums debated every clue. More than a century later, people remain fascinated because the core mystery remains unresolved. 3 men entered a lighthouse. 3 men disappeared. No one knows exactly how. Modern researchers generally favor a natural explanation. The evidence points toward extreme weather. The western landing area of Eilean Moor was notoriously dangerous. Massive waves could strike unexpectedly. Storm damage documented during the investigation supports this possibility. The most probable scenario is that the men were attempting to secure equipment or respond to weather-related concerns when a powerful wave swept them into the sea. This explanation fits most of the available evidence. Yet, most probable is not the same as certain. The absence of direct proof ensures that doubt remains. And where doubt exists, mystery survives. More than a century has passed since James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur vanished from the Flannan Isles lighthouse. The island still stands. The waves still crash against the cliffs. The lighthouse still overlooks the cold Atlantic. But the question remains unanswered. What happened on that remote Scottish island in December 1900? Were the men victims of a rogue wave? Did an unexpected accident claim all 3 lives? Or is there a missing piece of the puzzle that has been lost forever? The truth may have disappeared with the keepers themselves. And that is why the Flannan Isles mystery continues to haunt the world. A real case, involving real people, with an ending that history has never fully explained. 3 men entered the lighthouse. 3 men vanished, and the sea never gave them back.